Então, bom dia. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this session of the APCE webinars, the Portuguese Association for Corporate Communication. And we try in these sessions to discuss some issues that are on our day-to-day job and challenges. And we try today to pass through the impacts of the trends for 2025 on our profession. First of all, I would like to thank the guests and that are here with us today and their kind availability to be here. So all together with us to discuss these next year communication trends, we have Fiona Cassidy from New Zealand, fellow and life member and past chair of PRINZ, the Public Relations Institute of New Zealand. And she was a New Zealand Army officer, or she's a New Zealand Army officer veteran also. From Finland, we have Haring, post-board member of ProCom, the Finnish Association of Communication Professionals, and member of the European Regional Council of the Global Alliance for Public Relations and Communication Management. From Portugal, we have Lucia Cavaleiro, APCE board member and manager communication and digital of Tabaqueira, the Portuguese Philip Morris International Affiliates. And last but not least, we have Pavel Vlček, chairman of the executive board of ASCOPA, the Association of Strategic Communication and Public Affairs, and also member of the European Regional Council of the Global Alliance for Public Relations and Communication. So this session is being recorded for faster share of APCE social media and webcast, and we'll try to make it for approximately 45 minutes, maximum 1 hour, depending on the questions that you are going to ask. For now, the Q&A is open, so please, if you want to, feel free to ask and to write your questions on the Q&A. And we'll try as much as possible to answer them. Having made these disclaimers and the appropriate introductions, we'll now hear from our guests about some of the main trends in communication for next year and our challenge on how to work on them. Starting with Kia. Kia, good morning again.
Hello.
First question is sustainability a key factor when people choose a mean of transportation? Is it just an European issue? Because when we compare Europe with America, especially in the USA, it's very different. What do you think about that, please?
Hello, everyone, and so nice to be here. And why Antonio is asking me this question is that I used to work for a sustainable mobility company, meaning the state railway company here in Finland, operating also in Sweden. And we, on top of the trains, we also have trams, buses, etc. So regarding sustainability, I wish it would be the decisive factor, but unfortunately it is not. I mean, environmental friendliness is an increasingly important factor when people choose the means for transportation, as we all are becoming more and more aware of reducing our carbon footprint. But I would say that regardless if you are going for the longer trip or shorter trip or commuting to work, it's still the affordable price. That is one of the key factors. Also the speed, how quickly you are reaching your destination. And of course, the travel comfort. I mean, is it spacious enough on the seats or quality of air conditioning and this type of things. And one thing that I would like to highlight is the availability or accessibility of the service. How far is the railway station from where you live? How long does it take you to get to the public transportation overall? So suitability of schedules, etc. So there are unfortunately still many other factors impacting. But I don't think, of course, Europe is probably one of the leaders in this matter, as there's a lot of regulation coming and cities have their own net zero targets, etc. But I would say that it is a global issue, and particularly among the younger generation, they are paying more attention to the environmental friendliness in whatever lifestyle they have. They are much more aware, so I would say that there's a lot we can learn from them.
Thank you very much. Nevertheless, I would say that in Europe, especially for governmental issues, many of the flights, of internal flights in Europe, are being replaced by trains, and you know that better than anyone here. Is it a trend? It's going to go to other cities. For instance, in Portugal, we are talking about suppressing the flights between Lisboa and Porto. In Spain, are trying to do the same between Madrid and Barcelona. The same between Paris and Brussels. Is this something that we are going to watch on the next years?
I believe so. France is also doing this already. So where there's more transportation, like the very central Europe, so we see good signs of it. Of course, here in Finland, we don't have so heavy traffic yet, so it might take a while, regardless that we are otherwise quite aware and paying attention to sustainability matters overall.
Thank you very much. Fiona, for you, it's good evening from the other side of the world. This is a good issue to ask you something about globalization. Do you think that globalization is also about people? Of course, it's not only the goods that are being transported from one place to another, but it's also about people. Something that I may say, Portugal in the 16th century tried to be one of the first globalized countries in the world. So it's something that we knew, but now we have that talk is coming again, and especially about the people, but also for new places, new markets. Companies need. I may say that the people must adapt to that. But what are your thoughts about this? What can happen in the next year, in the next few years, about how companies balance between their cultural heritage of their own country, especially when they are national, but also the international companies, how they can balance the heritage with globalization and different cultures, different people, so on?
I think one of the most interesting things. Oh, sorry. Good morning, everybody. It's 11 p.m. here in New Zealand, and it's a real honour to be here. I think that we're really at a time in the world where we've actually got more conflicts than at any other time. There are 171 countries that are actually having issues, and what that means is that for organizations and for peoples, they're looking for something new. So if you look at the economic environment, certainly in the last year, or certainly since COVID, what we've seen is we've seen internationals changing bases, and we've seen people flow with that. I think the thing that we always need to remember is that when we go to another country, regardless of who we work for, we remain the guests of those that actually look after the country. And so for us as PR communication specialists, what it is very important for us to do is to ensure that as part of the culture within the organisation, we ensure that we maintain, I use the word mana, that's like the integrity of those that we are going to. There is no such thing, I believe, anymore as globalization. What I think there is global thoughts which are localized. And so at any time that we move to a new market, whether it be here in New Zealand to Asia Pacific, or it could be if we're lucky enough to go into Europe, we need to operate within the environment we're in. So I think that's actually something that's been going on a while. What you are seeing, though, is you are seeing a rising and a claiming of cultures wanting to be seen. And so, again, the trend for us to be aware of is what is the culture we're operating within? How do we make that relevant to the place we're working with? And how do we incorporate that into the business? Because if you go in with New Zealand ideas to Finland, it's not necessarily going to work. But if you go in with an open mind and ensure that as comms professionals, you understand the environment you're in, then you'll actually get a better outcome. I think there's going to be a lot more movement. You know, here in New Zealand, we are a long, long way from a lot of the issues that are happening throughout the world. So the people who tend to come to here choose us as a destination for different reasons. And we have, I think, for a little country of about 5 million, I think we have over 100 languages. So if I look at New Zealand and how that works is people hold on to their culture, but in the working environment, they adapt to ours. And I think that's what success will look like.
Thank you very much, Fiona. But looking for something Europeanized and something that is happening, and it's good to have an opinion from outside. It's something that you said that if Kia is going to New Zealand, but we are also having some people from all over the world coming to Europe to work, of course, and we are talking about working people and people that come to make their future here. How is the balance between their culture, their heritage, and our European heritage? So how can we balance both things? What do you think we can manage this?
I can talk from the New Zealand perspective. So I'm an Indigenous New Zealander. So I'm actually native, I'm Māori, I belong to here. That goes with me. It doesn't matter where I am in the world, I stand on my culture. But what I need to do, for an example, if I go to Europe, and I have, it is upon me to be successful, to try and learn the local language, to try and ensure that I know the norms, because by doing that, I will be successful. It doesn't mean I'm any less Māori, but what it does mean is I'm fitting within the environment I'm working in.
Thank you very much, Fiona. Pavel, coming again and trying to wrap up these two interventions between Pia and Fiona, do you think that consumers are ready to walk the talk about this kind of sustainability and this heritage and these cultural aspects?
It's a question for not like 3 or 5 minutes wrap up, but when I should be really short. So definitely they are, but when they should pay for products or services, they do not want to pay any much extra. What we know based on data, so the appetite for paying more for sustainable, let's say, solutions is usually up to plus 10%, and with some exception plus to 20%, which means they very often make their choice via their wallet, if it's full or is not. And the communication and responsible communication and communication of sustainability should not, from my perspective, focus only on, let's say, green solutions, because much more valid is the S pillar of ESG, that social pillar. And what we know also based on data, that when people, like for example employees in companies or institutions, perceive the communication within their place or within their workplace as functional, that they understand what company does and how they should behave and how they should contribute, it enhances somehow their satisfaction with the company by more than 60%. And on the other hand, when they do not feel that the communication within the company or organization is proper, it is one of most important factors which can influence that they leave the company. So this is being wrapped up from my point of view.
Thank you very much, Pavel.
Thank you.
Lucia, we are talking about globalization. We were talking about companies. I remember about American companies, even like McDonald's, that when they go abroad and they came to Europe, they sometimes somewhere in time they try to adapt to our culture, like introducing beer in the restaurants, like introducing soup in Portugal, for example. So they try to somehow to adapt to the country that they are coming. Although at the end of the day, it's always hamburger and cheeseburgers and so on. So, but at least they try to do some adaptation. You work in a globalized company, but not talking about your company, but about your eyes. What do you think is in this world and this globalized world? What do you think that Portugal how can Portugal contribute to it? How do you see Portugal as an exporter for the world?
Good morning to everyone in this webinar. This is, to start with, this is a truly global opportunity to reflect on the challenges we all face, which, by the way, are equally global. So this is a very important conversation with such respected panelists and participants from around the world. Fiona mentioned it brilliantly with a buzz expression that I think it will be one of the key takeaways. It's global thought localized. So I believe that is one of the perspectives, and linking with what you were also mentioning, Antonio, regarding the talents, the international talents, investments globally wise, and also the creation of excellence centers in Portugal. For instance, in the company I work with in Portugal, we have 40 nationalities. So this can give a broader perspective on how countries are really embracing business at a global level. I think Portugal is increasingly recognized for its innovation and high quality products in areas such as technology or renewable energy, among others, of course. And as an exporter, it leveraged its strategic position within the EU, and also its historic ties to markets in Africa, Brazil, and Asia make Portugal an attractive gateway for global businesses. And Portugal has been carving out a reputation for sustainability, especially in several industries. And I also acknowledge what Pavel said. The social aspect is very important. So I think this is important when we talk about sustainability, is really walk the talk. So communication will not do anything specific in this area, but only to share what companies are really embracing regarding sustainability. And with emphasis on green energy, digital transformation, I think Portugal is positioning itself as a competitive player in the global trade. So I believe in 2025, corporate communication and public relations will likely emphasize Portugal's strategic advantages and sustainable practices even more. Companies will highlight its commitments to innovation and environmental responsibility, aligning with global trends towards sustainability and digitalization. And I believe that this approach will not only enhance Portugal's image, but also attract more international partnerships and investments.
Sorry, thank you very much, Lucia. I was unmuting my mic. Well, I'll invite all our participants to go to the Q&A and ask you questions. This will be more enriched if you try to do it more interactive with you. So please feel free to go there and ask your questions, and we'll try to answer them as much as possible. Well, after this first round of questions, direct questions, we'll try to move to more news in the world. That's some topics that we'll try to discuss as a group. So please raise your hand. Feel free to contribute how much is as possible. I have prepared some questions for you, and one of them is I need to update now. I have to. The first question was how Ukrainian war will impact our business or your business in 2025. I must add, with recent events from this weekend, besides the Ukrainian war, and Fiona already mentioned this today, the Middle East crisis now with Syria, along with Israel and Iran. How do you think this will make some differences or the impacts that will cause in 2025? Most of them regarding our profession, of course, but also the business in the world. Please, Pavel, do you like to start, please?
Thank you, Antonio. You know, of course, these changes have a huge impact on companies, businesses, and on the whole business models and way how to think about business sustainability and, let's say, possible progress and ability to deliver promised solutions and services. And after COVID, you know, we saw how huge impact it had in international business, and how sometimes, you know, companies underestimated very often the possible risk management solutions and proper communication related to this. And I believe that such experience always strengthens companies, and especially shows on clear example how communication is essential for surviving in such unpredictable environment. Because in companies, you can have different point of view and perception of the role of communication. And you have two, let's say, huge differences. One is that communication is something at the end of process and should communicate what already is prepared, which is, from probably point of view of all of us, the wrong perception and approach. Or the communication is something what is in the center and is like reputation management and stakeholder management, and enables really doing business and to prepare the conditions. Clearly speaking, at Harvard University, they found out and predict that in next couple of years, 85% of businesses, of purchases of customers will be related and based on good relations and good perception of what the company does. And also we have here our data from the Czech Republic, which show that companies which are perceived as responsible, so they have in plenty of aspects much higher support from their clients, and customers trust them, support them in bad time, and are really willing to make business with them, to buy stuff with them. And but the differences are really huge. It is from like 50% up to 250%. So between companies and brands which are not perceived as sustainable and those who are.
Thank you very much, Pavel. Yeah, you are in the first line of this conflict, at least near close to it. What you raise your hand, please just share your thoughts.
Yes, so I used to work in a company when the war started, who had employees both in Russia and in Ukraine. So hence have a bit of a reflection on that. But unfortunately, the war continues, and already during the COVID times, we learned about something called VUCA. It's about the volatility, the uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. And that is absolutely something that we see continuing in our markets. And of course, the impact of that environment to the companies can be big. I mean, due to the war, there are sanctions, there are trade restrictions, not to talk about the humanitarian crisis and refugees. Companies need to rethink their strategies, exactly as Pavel talked about the business models, but total strategies. And I have one concrete example. Finnair, the Finnish airline, used to differentiate through serving the quickest routes to Asia, and they flew over Russia. Well, in today's world, it's not possible anymore. So they need to rethink whole their strategy and the differentiation. And luckily, they are just about to get back to track, but they can't still fly through Russia. They need to take a longer way to reach the Asian destination. So just a concrete example of that. And how is the impact then to us as communicators? So I think it's, of course, it's a stress factor. I mean, we need to be very flexible. We need to be able to adapt to the changing circumstances, but it also allows us to step up and take a more strategic role in all of this. Of course, it requires hard work. And as Pavel reflected, so we as citizens and consumers, we expect companies to have a say and take a stance, be part of the development of our societies. That is what we expect. But seeing it from the company perspective, there's a bit of a duality dilemma, where to take the stance and where not. I mean, obviously, there's great benefits of saying an opinion, but when the requirements are growing and there's more and more issues to take a stance on, you can't be everywhere. And I would say that this pressure comes mainly from our internal stakeholders. It doesn't come so much externally, but internally in a global company. So there's a lot to deal with and a lot to balance with it.
Lucia?
Just following Kia, I was thinking how businesses have to adapt to these changes. And they will probably do that by taking key steps. Like, for instance, they probably will have to diversify their supply chains and also invest in local manufacturing in order to reduce dependency on specific regions. And this means sourcing materials for multiple suppliers and providing more goods locally. And this will help ensure stability and support also local economies in some way. And also, companies will adopt advanced technologies like AI and automation in order to streamline operations and improve efficiency. At some time, they will
Lucia,
probably have
please
to...
don't kill
Sorry.
me don't kill me my next question.
Okay. So I will jump just for another priority, which is cybersecurity. I think it's also a top priority companies will have to address in order to make sure that their data are secure and no harmful will be addressed to them. So I believe that by implementing these strategies and these key steps, business can better prepare for and adapt to the evolving geopolitical and economic environmental, ensuring resilience and continuous growth in this challenging environment.
Thank you. If you allow me some comment, I agree with you, Lucy, when you say that manufacturing is somehow going to change, in my opinion. We talked a lot of micro distribution in cities, in countries, I think that we are going somehow to go to micro manufacturing, not instead of doing everything so globally in one or two factories in the world. I think that some things, some products will go to be manufactured in specific regions just to be more close and to avoid some of the costs of transporting and so on. So the micro distribution will be complemented with micro manufacturing, in my opinion, but this is just an opinion. Pavel, please.
Well, thank you. I would like to comment also on what Kia said, yeah, because we just should remind we as communicators how quick the development in terms of brand activism is. Guys, I don't know how you in your countries, but here in the Czech Republic, and I worked at the time for the biggest banking group, which was in the world, it was Citibank. So at that time, like 15 years ago plus, there was the golden rule that companies should comment only on themselves and not on politics, on society, etc. Let's say. And of course, always to say that they are good citizens and good neighbors, but it was the limit. And then in like 2016, there were first mentions. I believe it was in Cannes Festival of Creativity in 2016. There raised a phenomenon of brand activism, which really expanded, and till, let's say, this year, it grew up rapidly. And now this year, we can observe that really companies also reconsider this concept, and they ask themselves what they really should comment on, what they should be involved in, and which parts of activities they should really focus on and stay for. And for example, Toyota mentioned that they somehow leave the concept of diversity, equality, and inclusion onwards because it does not work for them so much. And this is not the only company which makes this. So we are now in the process where also the sustainability will go through some reflection, and we will probably get some SDG/ESG/sustainability 2.0, which will go through the test of possible, doable, reachable options from my point of view.
Thank you, Pavel. Fiona, are these European and Middle East conflicts that it seems very far away from New Zealand? How do you see this? It's really affects you also, or is just something that you think, well, that's up with the European, don't worry?
No, I think Lucia talked about it before. It's actually the economic impact. And so for a little country like New Zealand, which is basically our biggest produce is agriculture, other than people, a little bit of digi and tech, shipping lanes are really important to us. Access to markets is really important to us. And of course, with all the conflicts in the world, what you're seeing, and you've seen it through the Middle East, is certain shipping lanes are closing, or as Kia said, you can no longer use certain flight paths. So it is actually a global issue, but it's an economic issue. But what I would like to say to some of the comments that we've made today is business is changing because the next generation younger than me want change. So I think there has been a huge movement in our 30 to 40-year-olds who are really committed to ESG, sustainability, climate change, and they're activating. And there's lots of activations happening all over the world. And I think that's driving business to actually look at things differently through a DEI lens, ESG. But coming back to it, at the end of it, economic sustainability is something I think we all grapple with.
Thank you very much. Vlček, coming again to you, and how do you think that the new tools like artificial intelligence, AI, other tools, ChatGPT, something, so many. How do you think this will affect our business, our profession, PR, communication? How do you think that what will come, especially in the next year? But also, as someone pointed out from our audience, what metrics and what KPIs can we use to measure the outcome of the use of those tools? Because it's a very good question, because we talk about using AI, but how can we measure the outcome of that? Is that really good, or is just something fancy that we like to say to our friends that we are using already, and so on?
It's a great question for reflection from the audience, and thank you for that, Antonio. I believe that AI is really changing the game for companies, especially when it comes to communication, and it's being used a lot for things like audience analysis, media monitoring, and with AI, I think it's a very good help. We can predict trends and tailor our message to different groups in real time. I think the big thing is this time situation, which makes every communication much more effective and on point. So AI also take care of a lot of repetitive tasks like gathering data and generating reports. And this means that communicators and PR teams can spend more time on creative and strategic work, like coming up with innovative campaigns and building stronger relationships with their audiences. I think overall, using AI helps companies stay ahead as a fast-changing digital world and in a fast-changing world, as already was said here this morning, and makes their communication strategies much stronger. Regarding the KPI, well, I believe that the specific audiences, which we also mentioned here today, will be key to define if we are going on the right track.
Yeah.
Yes, so I was gonna talk about the measurement. So as what I agree, what are the most usual use cases for AI for communicators so far? So I would start from the efficiency perspective, as the quality is still quite hard to measure. But definitely there are efficiency gains from many perspectives. But what is worrying, I would say, I just read a study, I think it was the European Communication Monitor, that says that more than 55% of the perceived barriers actually comes from missing competencies, commitment, or acceptance among our communication staff in order to utilize AI. So I was worried about that, and personally decided that we need to do something about it. In my previous team, I think it was okay to try different ways to benefit from this new technology. We also had a company-wide experiment where they collected 100 persons to try Copilot, as we were in the Microsoft Office world. So and the purpose of that experiment was just to make people comfortable with it, not to be afraid, instead try and learn, and in that way pave the way for the next generation of services that are more sort of tailor-made to the business or to the different functions.
Thank you very much. Although Copilot we can build our database with Copilot, so it can help somehow about our sources of truth. So it's a good thing. Pavel, please.
Well, thank you. Regarding the artificial intelligence, we had here like a month ago, we had here Alistair McCapra from Chartered Institute of Public Relations from Great Britain. And we had with him here a very nice private session. And there were like two important remarks which were said during this seminary. And one was that companies really should support their employees to try AI tools and to get the best from it. And they really should say them, okay, guys, let's say every Friday from 3 to 5, this is a dedicated time for AI tools, and that you will really try how you can make your work better with this. And it should be a dedicated time for this. And another point was, in contrary, that we should be also responsible with using AI, because not only that it can produce, let's say, more tricky content, but it has enormous, extreme electricity and energy consumption, which means that on the other hand, we should help people that they adopt AI, but on the other hand, we should try to avoid the misusing of it, in terms of that we do not last the planet and energy resources.
Thank you very much, Pavel. We have a question that Fiona can clearly help us to answer. That is something from Portugal that is asking, how can Portugal compete with a much bigger neighbor like Spain in terms of communication, in terms of PR? So I would say, Fiona, what can we learn from New Zealand competing with Australia that is the same issue?
I really think it comes down to what's your point of difference, and the point of difference is your culture and your ability to project that culture in the best possible way. So I'm sure that in Portugal, often you are the little brother like we are to Australia, but that doesn't stop us having our own identity, our own products, and our own way of doing business. I think the strengths, and I've heard this come from all of the panelists tonight, is in our ability to actually be forward-thinking and a point of difference. So when I look at Portugal from this end of the world, I see a gem because of its uniqueness, and it's that uniqueness that you take to the world. It's like New Zealand. What do we take to the world? Well, you know, we're pretty famous for a rugby team, but actually the image of New Zealand is green, clean, and a safe environment. And I think that's where the point of difference is in your country and what your country projects, whether that's Finland and its uniqueness, Czechoslovakia, or Poland, or Portugal. So I don't think there is an issue. I think it's about projection and what we do as communications people to make sure our businesses are seen as unique and as touch points, sustainability, climate change, DEI, and actually having really great products and services.
Pavel, please.
Well, we have the same example, because we were one state, Czechoslovakia, till 1993, and more than 30 years we are two separate countries. And I always make good fun from our population, and so because we have 10 million, Slovaks have 5 million, so we are quite small for countries. And but what is very important, we prolonged 5 years ago our major contest of communication projects and corporate media, Golden Semicolon, to Slovakia. And so we have now quite huge inflow of Slovak projects, and we see the clear difference, because of course we were one state, but we have a bit different mentality and approach. And Slovak projects, which they perceive us always as a bigger brother and somehow look like for inspiration to our country. But I have to say, Slovak projects are mostly much more progressive. They work much more with creativity. When they really do something, so it is world-class project. We also do it in our country. But when I see the difference, so they have much more better ratio in this.
Thank you very much. But we already reached our 45 minutes time, so we're going to to make some last round of question, I would say, and then if people from that is watching us, please feel free to do the last round also in the Q&A. For you, my friends, I would say, what is the biggest change or evolution that you expect for public relations in communication in 2025? Who wants to start? Lucia?
Okay.
And then Fiona, it's promised.
Fiona was quicker than me raising the hand. So I believe one major shift will be to the integration of immersion technologies like AR and VR in storytelling. We can also have examples of CEOs telling their stories using these kinds of immersive technologies. And I believe that this will be a game changer that allow brands to create more engaging and interactive experience that really capture people's attention. But in another perspective, I believe that another significant evolution will be the emphasis on transparency and authenticity. And this is also came up regarding AI and even in the chat concerns about this technology. So as audiences become more discerning, they will demand more meaningful and ethical connections with brands. So PR will need to focus on building trust and genuine relationships, making these two core pillars from a perspective of PR for 2025.
Fiona?
Lucia stole my idea. But
Sorry.
I would say I really want to look at the challenge. And I think the challenge for us as communications professionals is the amount of misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation. And what we need to do and get smarter at actually coming back to that authenticity, that trust, and that reputation. It's only going to get worse because of the fragmented media environment we now have. So for our ability to actually connect in the most appropriate way with our communities is stronger now than any other time, but it's also harder. So I think the challenge is how do we ensure that we have the right practices in place to deal with misinformation, malinformation, disinformation, because the technology highway's here and we have to ride it, but we need to connect.
Thank you very much, Fiona. Kia?
Yeah, I would like to just state that this VUCA environment, the volatile, the uncertain, the complex, the ambiguous environment will continue. And we should remember our role as communicators. I mean, communication creates security both within the society and within organizations. It is a means of reducing the uncertainty and supporting sense of community. And it's also, I mean, building trust, one of our key roles. It's a remedy for preventing polarization. Of course, we should take advantage of the new technology. We should learn to use it, be the master of it, etc. But all of this and the uncertain environment serves us to take the strategic roles. And it is up to every one of us to just capture it and show it in real life. Thank you.
Thank you, Pavel?
I will be very short and brief. From my perspective, everything what ladies said is fully true. From my perspective, the biggest challenge is still, and it is lasting for years and decades, is that we also as the industry should choose what we really are. If we are really strategic role, which fully influences business, prepares the environment for future business, is measurable, and is one of key C-level roles, or if we are service providers in companies. I believe we are not the option 2, we are number 1. Therefore, we are also working on the competence model of corporate affairs, and we really should distinguish, and this is our main task as communication professionals, that we should distinguish and explain that public relations does not mean something like delivering information to journalists and through journalists to general public, let's say, but this is a strategic role on C-level, which should go through our organizations and which really sets the relations with stakeholders, and the stakeholders are quite clearly defined in the definition of what is public relations, which means that are not only journalists, but also employees, also business partners, also general public, also politicians, authorities, etc.
Thank you very much, Pavel. Well, unfortunately, everything that is good also comes to an end. So thank you very much for your availability to be here. Thank you, Lucia. Thank you, Kira. Thank you, Pavel. Thank you, especially Fiona, for your late nights there in Aotearoa, trying to share with us your thoughts. So once again, also thanks to the people that, to our audience, to the people that have somehow listened to us. Remember that we keep with these webinars in APCE, and this webinar will be broadcasted in our podcasters of excellence in communication that is available in iTunes, Spotify, and Google. So once again, thank you very much to all of you, and see you next year with another webinar from APCE. Thank you very much. Muito obrigado e resto bom dia para todos.